Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made a fall thank you card with one of the new stamp sets from the fall catalog, the July to December 2022 mini catalog from Stampin' Up. So this is a pretty stamp set, probably one of those that you may not have seen right away when you looked in the catalog because it's kind of hidden a little bit in the back of the catalog, but it's really pretty, and it's actually, like I said, it's a good one for kind of all things fall, and I really like it. So it's one that's fun to color. There's a larger apple image, obviously, and then the smaller ones. And the smaller one is the one that we're going to be coloring today. So it's pretty easy to do. It is going to take a minute or two of coloring. So you'll have to be patient with me as I kind of carry on and continue to, to color with it. But this is a stamp set. And again, it's kind of towards the back of the new mini catalog. So here it is. Hey, Kay and Vicky and Trudy, thanks for hopping in today. And this is the card we're going to be making. So again, it's pretty simple, aside from the coloring, which actually is pretty simple as well, because, you know, I don't do anything that takes a long amount of time, and my coloring skills are a little limited. So, you know, I just color until it looks pretty to me, and then I call it good. So, hey, Melanie, thanks for joining. All right, so stamp set, got the card. And then a couple of other things that I used on this is the Stylish Shapes dies. I used this little kind of wider, narrower of the little banner dies from the Stylish Shapes dies. This die set is in the annual catalog from Stampin' Up. And then I also used the second to the largest rectangle die from the Scalloped Contours dies, which is also a die set that is in the current annual catalog. So again, you can find those, and you'll be able to find all the details for this card posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. So if you're not already following along, hop over, subscribe, and you'll be able to see all the information. Hey, Karen, and I'm glad you're liking the card. Like I said, it's pretty simple, but I don't know, I love the fall colors of it. And anyway, and it's actually Christmas paper that I used on the background. So I cheated a little and didn't even use fall papers. I used Christmas ones. One other thing that I used on this, and I don't know how well it shows on the card in the video, but I did emboss the background with the brick and mortar 3D embossing folder, which is also one of the embossing folders in the current annual catalog. Couple things before I get going. Hey, Danette. I'm assuming that you all know that the new mini catalog from Stampin' Up and the July to August celebration event have both kicked off, open for ordering. So to celebrate a little bit, I'm doing a double reward points ordering bonus for any order of $50 or greater placed through me before the end of the day on June 7th, which is Thursday, I believe. So if you place an order through my online store, $50 or greater, you get double points from me. And my reward points, basically you earn a point for every $50 that you spend. So in this time frame, you're actually going to get 2 points for every $50 that you spend. And then once you collect 8 points, you get a free $40 order of your choice from me. So yay, free merchandise, getting there twice as fast if you order before the 7th. So hey, Barbara, thanks for hopping in. Let me know if you have questions on that. Also, you will be getting a free celebration item from Stampin' Up if you place an order of 50 or greater. So yay about that. Next thing, this is out on my blog today, which is stampwithamyk.com, and I'll also share it in the post tomorrow when I post this card project. Stampin' Up has a new kit in their kits collection called the Best Remedy Kit, and it is a really cute, hopefully you can see it, it's kind of a small picture on there, really cute little kit with 9 cards in it that kind of have a get well theme. There's a little stamp set for it. The price on it is $23, and it'll be available beginning July 6th, which is tomorrow, Wednesday, July 6th, in the online store if you check out the kits collection there from Stampin' Up. So let me know if you have questions. Again, the details for that are posted on my blog today. Hey, Patricia, thanks for hopping in. So I did a little bit ahead, so you didn't have to sit and watch me do all of this. My original card base is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, so it's a top fold card. But this card also works with a side fold card, so I am using that actually for my sample today. It's crumb cake card base. This card base is cut to 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored right down the middle at 4 1/4. And then I have got the piece of crumb cake cardstock that will fit, or should fit, over the entire card front, which should be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And the reason that I do a separate piece when I'm embossing an entire card front is just because it's hard to get the card fronts crammed through the embossing, or through the, whoa, almost had a glue disaster. So thankfully it fell to the side. Anyway, I guess I should stop talking and start paying attention to what I'm doing. But the reason that I emboss the entire, or emboss a panel and adhere it to the card front is because it is difficult to get card fronts through the embossing machine, the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. In an embossing folder, things get all bent up weird and they don't emboss straight. And so I just find that it's easier to cut a piece that's the size of the card front and stick it together. And now I know it wastes a little cardstock, and if you are good at getting them through the embossing machine without that, then you are certainly welcome to not put the extra panel on it. But I just find that I'm not very good at getting it through the machine straight. So for me, it is easier if I do it this way. Hey, Christy, thanks for hopping in. So I have got a piece of the Sweetest Christmas Designer Series paper, and this is it's the candy cane suite that's way up at the front of the catalog. And it's really cute paper. And again, the reds I thought were perfect to go with our apples in this card front. So I cut a little piece of it. This is about 1.25 inches by about 5 inches tall. And we're just going to adhere it, try to get it somewhat straight and even top to bottom. There's no like special placement that it needs to go on here. So hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in. And Sherry, thanks for joining today as well. And Carol, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who does that. Like I said, I originally, when I started stamping, I would try to cram them through the machine and I just could never do it right. It always made a mess. And then I was always sad because then I ended up ruining the entire card base instead of just one piece of paper if I went in crazy. So hey, Pam, thanks for joining. All right, so I've got Tuxedo Black Memento ink. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat, I guess, today. I don't know. And I'm inking up the image from the Apple Harvest stamp set, trying to make sure that I get a good solid inking on that. And then we're just going to stamp it on basic white cardstock. All right, there we go. Looks like we got a pretty good image on that. Close the ink pad up and put my stamp face down before I put my fingers in everything. Oh, and then let me grab some Stampin' blends. So we have got Sweet Sorbet and Old Olive for the main colors for the leaves and the apples. And then there's Crumb Cake here for the stems. So I'm going to start with the stems and stems. I was going to call them sticks. Tree branches is the word that... Goodness. Oh, anyway, words are always hard when it comes to videos. So I'm using the light Crumb Cake marker and I'm just coloring over the little branches on the tree. And I'm using the bullet tip because I find it a little bit easier, particularly when I'm doing smaller spaces like that. Then I'm going to come back in with the dark Crumb Cake and just add a little bit here and there, kind of where I think it will be a little darker in the shadows, along some of the edges, that sort of thing. My two markers, my Crumb Cake, are kind of a lot different in color, so I usually tend to come back and try to blend a little bit with my light once I get done adding the dark in, so that it's not quite so much of a stark contrast. But that is all there is to the amazing coloring of the tree branches. They're pretty simple. All right, then I've got Old Olive, and I'm starting again with the light ink, or the light Stampin' blends, and I'm just going to put color on several of the leaves here and filling them in. And again, it doesn't need to be colored perfectly because we're going to come back and do some additional shading with this anyway, so no need to worry about getting the ink down perfectly the first time around here. I'm going to probably color about half of the leaves, and then I'll come back in with the dark and add a little bit of shading, and then we'll work on coloring the apples. So again, just getting a little color, excuse me, color on the leaves here, trying not to color on the apples, but if you do, it's okay because you can kind of blend it away with the Sweet Sorbet marker when you come back with that. So I've got dark Old Olive here that I'm just going to come in, and again, Stampin' Up! Is kind of nice, and they've given us a few hints about where it is that some of the shading is on these stamped images. Obviously here I'm putting a little bit extra on because it's underneath another leaf, so I'm going to assume that it's going to be a little bit darker there. Same thing on this one. And because it's hidden behind the apple, putting a little bit of extra dark on that one. All right, and then I'm going to come back with the light and blend a little bit, not a whole lot. Again, just kind of making sure that I get color everywhere on the image. That's the main thing I'm worried about here. I'm sure that somebody who's really good at coloring can probably give you all sorts of tips and tell you exactly how to shade everything. I can tell you that I just add the shading until I think it looks good, and then I stop coloring. So I don't have any like super amazing tips to tell you, other than, you know, obviously I try to shade it a little bit darker on the leaves that are underneath the apples and behind things. But otherwise it's just kind of putting a little layer of color on, adding a little bit of dark, and then calling it good. You can always come in with a color lifter if you find that you've overshaded something, which sometimes I do that. Do a little too much blending on it, and then it turns into all one solid color again. And if you want a little more of a blended look, or a little more of a shaded look, you can come in with a color lifter, and we're actually going to do that on this, particularly on the apples and a little bit on the leaves as well. Again, just putting a little color on here. So have y'all ordered from the new catalog yet? Are you enjoying the celebration items? It's always so much fun to be able to pick something for free with your orders of 50 or greater. So always exciting and always fun. And there's some fun new dies and stamp sets, and the stamp set bundle with the paper in it. So lots of good things to pick from this time around. So again, I did about half of the leaves here, again, the other half of the leaves, I should say. And I'm going to come in and put a little dark here where I think it'll be underneath the leaves and kind of underneath the apples. Adding in a little shading here, probably a little bit here as well. And then this one, I'm just going to keep the shading a little bit more towards the base and down the center a little bit. Same thing on this one and this one. Again, trying not to put too much shading on these. And then we've got the little one back here that I almost forgot to color. And ordered twice already. I know it's hard not to. So yeah, I went a little crazy early on, so I haven't had to put in too many orders of my own since Celebration started, because I kind of had a lot of things. As you may know, if you watched my unboxing video, I ordered a few things. So I know y'all always laugh. You're like, did you leave anything in the catalog? I did leave a few things. And now, of course, I'm regretting not getting more of the Halloween, because I'm, starting to want to play with the Halloween things. And then I'm like, oh, I don't have the sentiment that goes with this one, and I want that sentiment. So I may end up having to put in, yes, another order, because I didn't order quite enough, apparently, the first time around. So, all right. Now I've got Sweet Sorbet. This is going to be my last little bit of coloring on the apples. And there are only 4 of them, so hopefully it won't take me forever to do that. But again, I just go in with the light first and get color on everything. And I may color, I may color 2 of them and then come back with the shading. So again, just getting the color on it is the main thing for the first round of coloring. We're trying to get the color on most of it. Now I'm going to come in with my dark Sweet Sorbet, and here we've got the little, this is the stem up in here, and we've got this underneath the other apple, and this is kind of the bottom of the apple, so I'm going to do a little bit darker in there. This one I'm going to do a little darker kind of around the edge and the bottom. And then we're going to come back and do a little blending here. And I am going to put a little bit of a light area here, and I'm going to actually come back in with my color lifter in a second. Once I kind of get all the color on this, I'm going to come back in with my color lifter and actually lift a little bit more of the color off of all of the apples. But all right, so we're going to do the same thing on the next 2, and hopefully y'all aren't getting bored yet. I know it's about as exciting as watching glue dry, watching somebody color, but it's one of those images that I didn't want to start it, because where do you stop at, first of all? And I wanted to be able to show you how I colored all of it. Again, whether it's exactly the right way or exactly how somebody who's really good at coloring would color it, probably not. But I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. And it's a pretty simple image actually to color. Again, if you're newer to the blends markers, I do find that natural images, things like the flowers and the fruits and whatever, are always good things to start with. Because they're a lot more forgiving than faces and, people and that kind of thing are. It's easier to be able to play a little bit with the color, and it may not necessarily turn out exactly like you want, but in nature, most things are not perfect either, so we don't have to color them perfectly to have it look good. All right, Just added a little bit of dark, and then I'm going to come back in and blend a little together here with the light. Not too much, a little bit, okay. And then I'm going to take my color lifter, and I prefer to use the bullet tip on the color lifter, as I have been with all the markers, but definitely on the color lifter. I find that I have a little more control over it, and I feel like it colors a little nicer, and I can kind of push down and really scrub on it if I use the bullet tip end. So that is the end that I generally prefer to use when I'm using the color lifter. And I'm just going to pick a spot and kind of try to keep it at the same angle on all of the little apples here. And I think we'll lighten a little bit there. With the color lifter, you can always come back and take away more color. So if you use it and you find that, I didn't quite take enough color off, I want to take a little bit more off, then you can always come back and lift a little bit more. And you can add in a little bit more color too if you find that you took too much off, which I feel like I did on the one apple. So you can always come back and add a little bit more color. But that's how I did it. So it's pretty simple. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate all your nice comments. I know I'm not really excellent at coloring, so, but that's, like I said, I just color until I think it looks good, and then I call it good. So I'm going to do a little bit of color lifting on a couple of the leaves here as well, just to lighten them up a little bit, and hopefully make it look a little more natural and real. I don't know if it really looks real, but because, it's kind of a hand-drawn image. But I think we'll stop with that. And I don't know if you can see right here. I'll hold it up closer to the screen. So I did a little boo-boo, and I went out of the lines a little bit with my old olive ink right there. Hopefully you can see it. So the color lifter also works for things like that. You can just come up right next to the line, color over it with the color lifter, and kind of almost push it back inside the line. So that boo-boo is all gone, and once the color lifter dries on it, you won't be able to see that it's there at all. Sometimes when you use the reds in particular, or like the dark purples and that sort of thing, you may have to come back in a couple of times with the color lifter to push it back in, but usually you can get almost all the color to go back inside the line if you use your color lifter that way, to kind of just take it and shove it back in. So that's the nice thing about the markers, is that you're able to kind of move ink around as you need to. So, all right. That's it for the coloring. And let me grab the dies here. I've got the Scalloped Contours dies, and I'm taking the second largest one of those. And we are just going to die cut this image. I'm actually intentionally going to put it up a little bit closer to the top, just because my sentiment is going to go down here. So, and I know that because I've already designed the card. So that's why I go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and slide it down a little bit. So Carol's asking, should you use the lifter right away or let it dry some? You can do it either way. I don't know that it matters. I do know that if you're going to come back and use the color lifter a second time, definitely wait until it dries. Because sometimes, again, you can get a little overzealous and then you've got too much color taken off of it. And sometimes actually on, the little boo-boos like that where you're pushing things back in the lines, it actually will continue to lighten as it dries. So with your, when you're using the color lifter initially, I don't think you need to wait until it dries to do anything with it. But before you continue to color on it with the color lifter, make sure that you let it dry a little bit in between your color lifting, if that makes sense. All right, let me go run this through the die cutting machine. And there we go. We've got our little scalloped apples all ready to go here. I think we're going to go ahead and stick that on the card front, just so I can make sure that I know where everything is going to land before I start sticking the ribbon and the sentiment on it. Got a couple Stampin' dimensionals. These are my half Stampin' dimensionals that I, chop them in half right down the middle. And I know, again, some people love them. Some people think that it's the silliest thing ever that I cut them in half. But I happen to really like them. So if you don't like them, just look away. It's okay. You can use your whole dimensionals. I just don't, because I prefer the smaller size and the kind of long narrow on the dimensionals rather than the little circle ones. So, hey Bonnie, thanks for hopping in. All right, so let me grab my ribbon next. I think we'll go ahead and put that on. So this is the gingham, black and white gingham ribbon. That's 1/4 inch wide, and it's really pretty. And again, there's only a little bit of black in here, but I just feel like this is like perfect for fall and perfect for apples, and so that's why I picked it. I originally had some, pulled out some other colors of ribbon, and finally went back to the black and white and decided that would look the best with my card, so hopefully you all agree on that. All right, I put a little bit of Stampin' Seal, hopefully you can see that on there, just a little spot of it on the card front. And then I'm going to take my ribbon, and we're just going to make a wide Z with it. So I'm going to start to make sure that I'm, oh, hopefully you can see it. Sorry if I'm off the screen here. So I'm going to make sure that it's not hanging off the edge of the card. And we'll just stick a little bit of it on here. And then we will wind it over here. Do a little bit of a V initially. And then come back across it again. And I'm just sticking it down in the one spot here, right in the center, because I'm going to put my sentiment over the top of it, so nobody's going to see the glob of adhesive here. And the sentiment will also help to hold the ribbon in place as well. All right, and yes, I have my ribbon scissors out, so Karen, you don't have to look away and cringe because I've hacked it with my paper snips. I have my little ribbon scissors. So next up, we are going to do some stamping for the sentiment. Goodness, I have stuff stuck everywhere here. And we're going to heat emboss. So again, you get to hear the heat tool and make a bunch of noise. So we've got Versamark ink, and I've got my sentiment here, again from the Apple Harvest stamp set. And I'm just going to ink that and stamp it on Old Olive cardstock. I'm glad you're liking the card. Hey, Julie, I don't know if I said hi to you or not. So I just see, I saw your comment about the card, and then I noticed that you just had hopped in as well. All right, so stamping that in Versamark ink. And we are going to heat emboss with white embossing powder from the Basics embossing powders. So let me grab a little embossing powder and sprinkle it over the top. And whoop, I got a few extra little flecks there. I'm just going to wipe those away. And it looks like we got a pretty decent embossed image, so I'm going to put the lid on that before I spill it everywhere or send it flying with the heat tool. The heat tool, Stampin' Up! has got two settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying. So if you're doing something like watercoloring or working with an ink that's a little slower to dry, you can set it on the level 1 setting and that will dry. And the level 2 setting is heat embossing, and it does take a minute for the heat tool to heat up on the level 2 setting to be hot enough to actually heat emboss. So that is why I am yapping away here as the heat tool is running, trying to get it so that it will be hot enough that we can heat emboss. And I'm going to turn that here towards my project. And as soon as it starts to turn kind of bright white and shiny, then we know that it is done heat embossing. You don't want to overheat it because you can burn your embossing powder, and that would be sad. You don't want brown embossing powder. And then I'm just giving it a second, again, as I'm yakking away here, to cool off, because if you touch it immediately when it's still too warm, you can actually smear your embossing powder and make a mess. And again, ask me how I know. It's because I do stuff like that all the time. So, all right. So I've got the Stylish Shapes dies, and I'm going to take this die in particular, the little banner die, and we're going to cut this out here. So I'm going to be off screen for a second. You do need the stamp set, Vicki. So again, just buy it all. That's always my theory on it. Then you're never sad that you don't have it. So, all right, let's get this die cut. All right, get our sentiment done here. Get these dies out of the way. And, oops, I grabbed the wrong card. That is not the one I want to put it on. It already has a sentiment. So I'm going to take a Stampin' Dimensionals again. And this is one, again, if you prefer the minis, you can definitely use the minis. But I find that these half Stampin' Dimensionals come in handy because I can take them and kind of slide the flat edge up close to the edge of the sentiment here, the die cut on the back side of it. And again, same thing with this. I'm going to add a couple more on here. And the reason that I'm trying to be a little careful and place these up towards the edge is because I want to try to make sure that I catch at least some of the paper and don't have my sentiment just stuck to the ribbon, because as you know, the ribbon can come off the card, not easily, but somewhat easily, and I'd hate to have a card fall apart in somebody's hands when they opened it up. All right, so I'm going to take this sentiment and we're just going to adhere it, and hopefully straight right over the top of the ribbon. And I think we got it on there pretty securely because I've got dimensionals up here and down here, so we're catching some of the cardstock. And Bonnie said she's wondering what stamp set we're using, we are using the Apple Harvest stamp set from the new mini catalog, which has got some really good sentiments in it, some beautiful fall apple images. So it's a great set. So, all right. One more thing for the card front is I grabbed a couple of the little rustic metallic adhesive back dots, and we stuck a couple of those here around the sentiment. So just whoop, flip that thing over. Let me grab there we go, paper snips, and flip it over. And I kind of tucked it under, I don't know, that's something I've been doing with a little bit more, playing a little more with the little dots and things, kind of tucking them under sentiments, and I don't know if it looks better that way or worse, but I thought it looked kind of cute, so I left it as it was. So that's it for the card front. So again, other than the coloring, it's super simple to put this one together. On the inside of the card, I also kept it pretty simple. I've got basic white cardstock and one of the other larger apple images from the stamp set, from the Apple Harvest stamp set, and crumb cake ink. Oh, thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate that. And we're just going to ink this up. And looks like I got a fairly decent amount of ink on there. And then we'll just stamp it over the corner of the cardstock panel. And I even got it. It looks like kind of straight. I wasn't sure how that one was going to land. When I set it down, I'm like, ooh, that might be crazy crooked, but I think it works. So, and then we're going to take a little Stampin' Seal, and we will adhere this to the inside of the card base. And we'll be all done for today. So again, all the details, all the cardstock cuts, everything will be posted on my blog tomorrow, and I will link the blog post up in the description of the video so that you're able to find it if you want to come back and look at anything or figure out sizing on any of the cardstock cuts. All right, so adhere that basic white cardstock, I don't know if I said that, on the inside. And then I'm going to take this and flip it over and try to be a little careful so I hopefully don't smash all of my embossing on the card front. Use the bone folder and give it a little bit of a crease there and flip it back over, and that's it. So details will be on my blog tomorrow. Again, I will be posting it all, so you can hop back out there tomorrow and take a peek. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget, my double reward points ordering bonus is ending on the 7th, so make sure that you hop in and get your orders put in. So I saw a comment from Daryl pop through. It says, patiently waiting for the mass. Oh, see? Now, Daryl, if you'd done what I do and accidentally have that slip of the finger to have all of your things overnighted, you'd have your stuff by now. I'm just saying, that's all. Anyway, just giving you a hard time, Daryl. I certainly understand, because I know that, the overnighting is expensive. So, all right. Thank you all very much for hopping in today. I appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. I'll plan to be live on my YouTube channel around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday, and then around 2 o'clock Eastern Time next week, Tuesday, here live out on Facebook again. Have a great week, and we will chat soon.